It's one of the things that I did talk about today on the radio was how hard these advocates work to get these programs up and running, because the community, the constituents, the people, my people, are fussing and complaining and mad as hell because we don't have these reform resources. Now we have them, but you got to show up.
You got to show up.
You got to show up. Or what's the purpose of us busting our tails to do it and you're not going to show up?
Right.
Oh, that made me hot. I was hot today about that. That's crazy. I did not know that we couldn't get anything to munch on or snack on until 5 o'clock. We're here at the Westin, kind of just hanging out, just sisters, just talking. So one of the conversations that I wanted to bring up, and I want to get it off let's get it off the air right now, off the back. So some of the buzz amongst some of the non-supporters, if you want to call them that, someone said, oh, but if she goes and becomes mayor, it's really her husband who's going to be mayor. You know, Charles Potter's going to be the mayor. I want you to clear that up. When you're elected into the mayoral seat, who's going to be sitting in the chair, Mrs. Velda?
I will be sitting in the chair.
Okay.
As I have been the one sitting in every chair that I've sat in over the course of my career. I sat in the chair at DuPont as an executive. I sat in the chair as Director of Finance for the city in Mayor Sills' administration when I was there. I sat in the chair as State Treasurer. I sat in the chair as City Treasurer.
So nobody's...
and I will sit in the chair as Mayor of the city.
No one's puppeteering you. No one's puppeteering you here.
Absolutely not. And so let me say this as we're clearing the air.
Yes.
Let me say this. I guess on two fronts. With my credentials, with my track record, with things that I have delivered in the way of real results, if I were anybody except, first of all, woman, and then I would say likely a woman of color, the question wouldn't even be asked. So what I would encourage anyone who has that question is to check themselves. I mean, seriously, we're having a serious we're having a real conversation here. Yeah. So let's make it real.
Let's keep it real.
And ask themselves, why are they even asking that question? If they can come up with
because
one
no one asked Mayor Przicki whether or not his wife was going to be sitting in the chair.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. I don't know anyone who's been in that seat, any of the mayors before him even, that question has been asked of. Now, is it because none of the other mayors have been women? Could that be it? So, that's what I would do. I would ask anyone who has that perspective to hold up the mirror and really ask themselves, what's the basis of that? And if you really have a basis, let's talk about it. If you have the question, give me a call. Let's us talk about it.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Great answer and very truthful. He's a good, strong supporter of yours, but you will be sitting and making the decisions in the seat.
Yeah,
and that's
if I can say this, and then we can move on to other things. But I have had the blessing of meeting my husband when we were in middle school. Wow. I was in middle school. He was in starting high school. Right. We married after we both graduated, and I graduated college. He finished his associate's degree. We have 2 adult sons, and over those years, we have had the good fortune of growing together. That doesn't always happen, and I consider it a real blessing. We have and will always have each other's back. Let's make no mistake about that. Right. As I think anyone who is in a strong partner relationship or in a marriage I would also want that for you.
Yeah, right.
So that's not going to change, period. But anyone who's ever watched me work, if you really ever watched me work, you wouldn't even be questioning that, because you would have seen that the decisions that are made are my decisions. Thoughtful, analytical, collaborative, but ultimately my decisions when I'm in the seat and in the role of leadership.
Excellent, excellent. And so I do want to move on, just taking it back a little bit to you being a Black and a woman. It's almost like two strikes in today's society, when actually it's two really blessings, right? You're a woman and you're Black. That's awesome. But I think we might have talked about this before, but we're serious and we're going to have a real serious conversation. The Wilmington Police Department, every police department is sort of under the umbrella of the mayor. As a Black and woman, how are you going to address the naysayers or the non-supporters of a Black woman being their boss?
Well, here's what I would say. I think what is most important for any leader is that they establish a rapport with the people in their organization, with the people who are looking to them for leadership, looking to them to treat them with respect, to establish the vision within which and together hopefully they will work. And I will do all of that. And I believe, and I've experienced over the course of my career, I've experienced great success with that. And so, whether it's the police department, whether it's L&I, whether it's public works, I started my career as a woman in a field that was primarily men. I started my career, my very first job was in engineering. And there were no women, there were no Black women. It was a predominantly male environment.
Old white men. But I'm allowed to say that.
But but as I did then and as I will do now, you come competent.
Yes.
You come capable.
Yes.
You come fair, and you come equitable, and you treat people well and with respect, and you establish with them, your expectations as the leader, which I don't think is any different than anyone else who's stepped in the leadership role as mayor of the city has done. And so I'm not anticipating there being any challenges with that.
Okay.
I am not.
Excellent. Well, that's good.
In fact, I believe the department, I'm hopeful that department, along with all the others, frankly, in the city, will welcome a leader who respects their professional capability, who appreciates their service, but who clearly is also going to establish the real expectations, some, maybe many of which may be different than the current leader, and we'll work through that process of how we come together around that, and then how we put that into action in our everyday service to these citizens here.
And that's I want to dovetail off of that. The word you used was vision. So and we're going to move on eventually, but let's get right into it, because right now Black folks, brown folks in the police department, we have different visions. They see things one way, we, the people, see things a different way. How are you going to bring those two visions together? I'm sorry, let me center the camera. How are you going to bring those two visions together? I'm sorry, between police and citizens?
Well,
Because it's our vision for them to stop beating on us.
So I believe that the culture within city government is a reflection of its leadership. I just can't emphasize that enough. I believe it's
Mayor
a
Przicki's
reflection of
not
its
calling
leadership.
the police saying, beat up on blacks today, is he?
No, let me say this. It is, I think it's a matter of helping to really change the culture within not only the police department, but with the city as a whole. What we have got to get to is a place where everyone who is part of our city government, who is being paid by taxpayers, understands that they're there as public servants.
Public servants. And
that everything we do is guided by that. Who we hire. So if we're bringing people into all the departments, including the police department, who are coming in with a spirit, and because they're coming to serve, to be helpful, to support, to assist.
Right.
I think that's the starting point. Bringing people in to city government, including the police department, who are part of the community, who understands the culture within the community.
Yes.
Is very important. And that's important all across the departments. But also in the police department as well as all of the others. So, there are some very specific things that we will do that help create and nurture that kind of culture within city government.
So there's a gentleman, I don't know if you're familiar with him. I had the good fortune of meeting him maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not exactly sure. His name is Lieutenant Dan. That's what we call him. Dan Seligman, Lieutenant Dan, who was so awesome on the West Side. I mean, he literally had drug dealers saying, you better not mess with him because we respect him that much. But he got there because he built relationships. Now, I gotta say, for anyone who doesn't know, in the city of Wilmington, the West Side is a predominantly Black and Latin American community. Lieutenant Dan Seligman is absolutely white skin, but he definitely is one of us on the inside. He built relationships and he became the liaison.
Yes.
Can we possibly do that with more officers?
Absolutely.
How are we going to do that?
Well, we look for, in many ways, we look for more Dan Seligmans because there's something in his nature that made it very natural for him to want to know it wouldn't have mattered who that community was. It just so happened he was assigned to the West Side. But I truly believe it wouldn't have mattered who that community was. He wanted to know them. He learned to care for them and to value them and to want to be helpful. And those are the characteristics and the qualities that I believe we want to look for as we bring people into city government, and particularly in those roles where they come into very direct contact with the public, like the police department, like the fire department, like public works and L&I and parks and recreation, like most of our community-facing departments in the city. And even those that are more administrative, finance. I can't think of human resources. I can't think of a department within the city where it is not absolutely important that that people working in that department bring that kind of care and concern and interest and desire to support and help. So I know Dan, and I know I know the way the community, I won't even say loved, I will say
still love, yes.
him. and I absolutely get it, why they do.
Yeah.
Because he loved them back.
He loved them first. I mean,
yes,
as far as I can tell, he's the only white boy I know that can walk through the West Side in the middle of the night and be all right. Like, it takes time to get to that place of respect, and they love and respect Dan.
Yeah, and he loves and respects them. That's the key.
Yeah,
it's a two-way.
Yeah,
and I will say that, you know, what sort of belies some of what you're speaking to is this lack of unity, more broadly. It's the how do I say it? It's this divisiveness between
divide and conquer,
and that has been, in some cases, purposefully, as we know, kind of established and fed in some ways.
Yeah.
So it's time we feed unity. It's time we feed the opposite.
Yeah.
It's time we look to bring people together.
Yeah.
It's time we create community.
Yeah.
All across this city.
Yes.
And we can do that.
Well, that's where I'm gonna chime in and ask you, is that a reality though, Mrs. Velda? Because, you know, we got to look at the young people at some point. You know, we know that they're coming into fruition. They're going to take over and save the world or whatever, either to save it or destroy it. I don't know. But, you know, you've got us who are elders, and we've seen some things. We've been around the bush. So what we want may not be what the young people are embracing. How are we going to all get on the same page? That's a lot to ask of you as a mayor.
Well, and certainly it won't be all me. It won't be all me. And I would say they're going to save the world because I know they can.
Yes.
I know, and because I know they must. Because as we transition into less active roles, the baton will be handed off. Whether whether some people want to hand it off or not, it will be.
It has to.
Yes, and so I do, and I really have to really believe and know, and I do that they will save the world, if you will.
Yeah.
That what I believe we need to do is embrace the differeces, the generational differences, just like we need to embrace the cultural differences, the socioeconomic differences.
Young people
we need to
seem to be doing well with each other. Like, there's not as much racial divide or economic divide. You see poor folks hanging out with rich folks.
Yes.
You know, young people are really coming into what they might say is the new world order. But they're doing so many young new things. People my age, we're trying to catch up. We're trying to keep up, and some of it really, it doesn't make sense. Some of it doesn't.
If we were playing a conversation from our elders, you know, maybe 20 years ago, they'd be saying the same thing about us, right? They would. They would be saying the same thing about us.
Those rascally rabbits.
Right. So, you know, so I just feel that they have so much to offer. Technology and innovation, in some ways risk-taking, like they're willing to just give it a try. We came up in an era of be safe and you know, have very narrow boundaries, and so I think they can learn and will and are, I hope, some from us, because sometimes those boundaries kind of help spare us maybe a bit more hardship and hurt. But then there are times when those boundaries
stop you from your
us
blessing.
from our blessing.
That's true.
So I think there's room for both of it.
Yeah.
And what we need to do though is just engage more. And really I believe it's on us to invite them in. It's on us to welcome them. And in so doing, we will be handing off the baton.
I tell you, even today I said that. I don't understand how people our age, mature adults, can walk by the youth of today and not even speak and say hello. It's almost like they're afraid to say hello. And that in turn creates the young people on shock. Like, oh, you're speaking to me? What do you want? You know, or like they don't know how to respond to that. We've got to start saying hello to them.
Yeah, they
engaging them.
Absolutely. And so, and how do we do that? We make room for them in the room. So, for example, I have in all of the, especially in the roles where I've been in public service, have always had, as I think about it, the second in line on my team has always been someone who could have been, who was frankly my son's age.
Right.
A very young person in their early 20s, and yet they were given and took on and frankly excelled with responsibility that most people would consider way beyond their age and their experience. Mm-hmm. So my experience has been when given the opportunity to step up into very responsible, significant roles, and they also, I think, appreciate the leadership and the guidance that I've been able to give and give them in those roles. Yeah. And we've accomplished some fantastic things. Yeah. And I have to credit a great deal of it to the deputy treasurer when I was state treasurer, who was probably 24.
Okay.
No doubt the youngest person who'd ever served in that capacity. Yes. The deputy treasurer when I was city treasurer, who I believe was maybe 26. The energy, the command of new techniques, new technology, new skills, and yet the willingness to be under tutelage and to learn. And so the two-way exchange that happened there, I just found it phenomenal. So one thing that people can expect is young people in my administration.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
I'm excited about
that's a part of passing the baton, by teaching them by hands-on experience
and by bringing in the knowledge that they're bringing from their recent tenure in college and in university and in all the other
very creative group of folks. Did you hear the rumor? Well, it's not even a rumor, but it's on mainstream media. Elon Musk is paying billions of dollars to colonize Mars. And at some point, I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm just going to say it's a pool. He's going to take the best, the brightest, the strongest folks in STEM, and those are the folks who are going to head on up there to Mars. I don't think I'm going to make that trip.
I can assure you I'm not going to.
I don't think so.
I'm not going to raise my hand.
I don't think I'll make that one. But perhaps my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren could be a part of that. What do you think about our high schools, learning more STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math?
Well, you're talking to someone whose education and life has been rooted in STEM. So, I was the first among the first 5 students to be a part of the FAME program.
Okay.
And for advancement in minorities in engineering. All about STEM. And so my career started there. And even though I am no longer working directly, and haven't for some years now, worked directly in the science and technology arena, it's still very much a part of who I am. And I remained involved and committed to the FAME program even after it helped me go to college, and I graduated. I came back and I tutored other young people, and then I served on the board. And actually, that program was a small program in DuPont initially. And during the time that I was the chair of the board, we actually moved it from out of the DuPont company as a program and created it as its own independent nonprofit, hired a executive director from across the country, Guy Moloch, who served as the executive director for many years, and expanded the source of funding and the population of students that it served to the point where it became really almost the model for STEM education across the country.
Do we still have FAME here in Wilmington?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it has grown from five little students of us,
right,
to now probably hundreds, if not a couple thousand, who have come through that program, gone on to be scientists, engineers, doctors, business people, mathematicians. And as I said, the influence across the country as it really became a model over the years.
How would a young person today get involved in something like that?
Well, the FAME program still exists. Don Baker is the current executive director. He's doing a fabulous job with it. Anyone interested can Google it. FAME Incorporated. And I know they'd welcome to have, more and more students participate. I was at their graduation, their summer graduation last year, and it was just so heartwarming to be in, I think we were at Cab Calloway in their auditorium, if I'm remembering correctly, and to see that auditorium filled with family and friends and all the young people graduating, and to know it came from just 5. It's just amazing. It is amazing, and you're part of the root of that. So I applaud you for that. You're part of that root, the groundwork of that. And we have, so to your original question is, how important is it that we keep that going? It's absolutely essential. I wish we could get that in every single high school in the city of Wilmington. I mean, I'm sure over at Ursula and places like that, it's being done. Salesianum, they're doing it. Well, kids, any young person, and it's not just in the city, it's throughout the state, but anyone, no matter what school they're in, can participate in FAME. Okay. So anyone, reach out. Don Baker, Donald Baker. Yes. And again, if you just Google FAME Incorporated, I know you'll pop right up. I'll tell you another thing that was amazing to watch all of the people enjoy themselves in support of Black business. Keen's Cuisine for your fundraiser. Oh, that was amazing. They make a nice oh my God, I had 2 of their lemon drops. Lemon drops. Tequila lemon drops. I felt real good when I got home. I am really so happy. I met Team and got a chance to visit his restaurant. He's only been open for, I would say maybe about 4 months now, but it is a fabulous, upscale, but very comfortable establishment. And he's young, right? 30s? He is young. 30s? I believe him to be in his 30s. Early 30s, And his staff is phenomenal.
All young people. I know that none of them were over the age of 30.
No.
All of them were young.
Super professional.
Yes.
The chef is top shelf. The cuisine is phenomenal, and the service matches that. I mean, I really do encourage people to support his business. For those who don't know where he's located, he is at the riverfront. Oh, you had a hard time finding it. I remember you said that. So just know, ShopRite at the riverfront.
ShopRite.
Go to the ShopRite, shopping center, and to the left.
And there
you will find him.
Yes.
And I want to say thanks so much to him and his team for making a wonderful evening.
Yeah, it really was. It was absolutely beautiful. I think I networked and talked to everybody in the room. It was just a good energy and atmosphere. Like you said, it's an upscale kind of a black establishment, and we need that with right now so many black-owned businesses that are just hurting. I can't help but mention we're down here. We're at the beautiful riverfront, and I've said it before. I love the fact that Mayor Purzycki is a businessman, and he probably had a box of Legos when he was a kid, right? Because he loves to build. But some of these people, the big developers down here, are trying to shake out a staple in our community, black-owned businesses. What can we do about that? Is there anything? The rent keeps going up, but it seems to only be going up for the black-owned businesses.
Well, I one of the reasons that I'm running for office and that I want to bring a different approach to the mayor's office and to the leadership of the city is not to stop the growth and development. I want to be very clear with people about that. For a city to thrive, we have to be investing in maintaining its infrastructure. We have to be investing in its housing, in business facilities, in entertainment facilities. We have to be doing that. But how we do it, I think it is equally as important. We have to be very responsible in how we do it. Let me give you an example of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
They have a philosophy and really a policy where everything that they do, they measure it on a sort of a yardstick against their objective to be inclusive and to moderate the economic impact on people within that city. So no matter what they're doing, at the top of their checklist is, have we considered inclusivity in this policy? Have we thought about how it's going to affect? And that inclusivity can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It can mean aids for disability. Have we thought about how accessible this is? Is this going to disenfranchise people who physically can't access it?
Yes.
It's everything from that to economically. Will this affect the cost, the supply of housing at a price point that surpasses the rate at which people's incomes are going up? Because that's where you get the lack of affordable housing comes from a couple of places.
Wow.
Is there enough housing, and is it pacing at a price point that is far exceeding the rate at which people's incomes are changing? Because if it is, you create a gap and you can't catch up with that. And so as part of their planning, as part of their vetting legislation, they take it through a litmus test that asks that question. Have we, as we do this, whatever this is, does it have the potential to impact inclusivity?
Okay.
And that just creates a discussion around things that we might not have thought about.
So you're going to kind of model some of that, include that in with your young administration. That's going to be great, because young people are going to find a way to, they're going to work it out.
Yeah, see, it's the questions
That's
we
good.
ask ourselves
That's really good.
as we do things and we solve problems.
Yes.
It's those unanticipated consequences that more often than not get us. It's not so much that we purposefully seek to disenfranchise, although that does happen too. But that won't happen in my administration. We won't be purposely looking to disenfranchise anyone.
Right.
But what I will want to be sure we guard against is almost accidentally disenfranchising or not thinking about the way something might impact or may not include. And then be very intentional about the decisions we make, that they do include. Yes. That, a workforce, that it includes local people, that it includes people of color, that it reaches out to people who are coming back into society, who need skills training. Oh my God. So all of those things, because we can't afford not to tap all the talent and the people. That's the measure of how our productivity.
I want to hear you say that these young people administration that's coming in, which I love it so much, that you're gonna require them to know how to ask these questions, or take that model from Charlotte and incorporate that for here in the city of Wilmington.
Absolutely.
Yes, I wanted to hear that.
Yeah, it's if you were to ask my family, my children, my husband, my sisters, my brother, my mom.
I love your mom. Oh my God, she's the bomb. She's a lemon drop.
Yeah, she is. She's special. I love her to life. Yes. But if you ask them, they will say that I analyze, and I do, and I problem solve, and I do, and I ask the questions, and I take my time to think about what it is we're doing. That doesn't mean I always get it right. But that approach, that methodology, I have found has served me well, because it gives us an opportunity to contemplate the impact. We're doing this to get that. Right. But as we're getting that, is there something else that we're not thinking about that may have an adverse impact? And if we think about that, we talk about that, we get input, then we have an opportunity to still do what we're doing, but to do it in a way that also addresses this other piece.
That's that word, solution oriented.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something else before we go for the day. Recently, you and I were over at the Kingswood Community Center, and we sat there and we listened. We learned so much about returning citizens coming home. We learned about what's not happening in the prison before they're released back into society. And I think both of us can agree that the recidivism rate in Delaware is far too much. 72% of those released go back in 3 years. That's something wrong with that. What of everything that we talked about and that we learned, what was the one thing that impacted you the most about that particular conversation that night? And there was a lot.
There was a lot.
There was a lot.
And so that people will know kind of generally what that conversation was about, is what you said. It's about it was with the ACLU and some other organizations that are coming together and collaborating around helping people who have a record. Yeah. Some go way back and they've had no infractions since, but they still have a record. Right. And unfortunately experiencing all the difficulties and challenges that come along with that. And so that was about second chances. It's about how can you help those people at this stage get their record cleared. Yes. So that they can then move on and be, positive, healthy contributors to society and enjoy life to its fullest. Yeah, yeah. And so the first thing that I learned is that there is a new law within the state, and I haven't had a chance to go back and actually read it, but my understanding, my takeaway from the meeting is that law it considers the many aspects of someone's record, how old it is, what the nature of their offense was, what their behavior has been since then. Since then, yes. And all of those things, and there is a population of people then who at this moment qualify for their record to be cleared. Yes. But they don't know it, and there isn't a really efficient system in place to help make that happen. And so one thing that is happening really well, and again, the ACLU, and I wish I could remember the names of some of the other organizations that were there that night. So I apologize that they're just not coming to my mind. But the work that they're doing to help make this happen is just amazing. So again, the thought that there are this whole group of people who even at this moment could have their records completely cleared and expunged. And again, I want to reiterate, this isn't everyone, because there are some offenses that cannot be expunged. Can't be expunged. There and for various reasons, if someone has continued to perpetuate offenses or various reasons. Yeah. But for those who, according to the state laws, are entitled to return fully to society without that stigma on their record, it's great for us to begin to do that. And so my understanding is in August of 2024, that the system will be in place to do that automatically. Yes. So it's again, but people have to step up now to know, and also to put the chime in. I believe what he was saying, and I just caught his last name, Mr. Rowland, I think it was John or James Rowland, was saying you have to chime in now, be a part of the conversation so that can be injected into what's going to happen in August of 24. Right. Yes, that's what I mean by people got to show up. Yes, the conversations about kind of how to go about doing this are happening now. Yes. And so and so going to the ACLU website is one of the places that I recall that people may want to turn to. Hanif Salam, K.O. Bartley, any of those people would be able to help you. Timeless Thomas, that's another one. So and the next thing that was very striking to me, now I'm a numbers person. Right? Okay. 290,000 was the number that struck me and stayed with me. That's the number of people who right now it's believed would qualify. Would be eligible to at least try. For that. 290,000. And I guarantee you at least 200 of that 290 look like you and I. Right. They're black, brown, and golden people. So what that said to me is, look at how many people we are not benefiting from as productive parts of our community.
Right.
And who, for them, they're left on the sidelines when they could be fully brought into our community in all ways.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited about the fact that is underway.
Yes.
And the number of people's lives. And it's not just their lives. You take that and you multiply that.
Yes.
Because that's their children. That's their siblings. Those are the people who they love, who love them, who care about them, whose lives they can impact as positively as they themselves become a part of the workforce, and all the rest of the good stuff that goes along with that. So.
I gotta say, the thing that probably shook me the most was when I heard Hanif Salam say everybody needs to go find out what is in your background. What did he call that? A background check. Go find out what is in your background.
Yes.
You know, you might have something in your background that you didn't even remember or think, you know, that you still had it. I mean, I told you I was arrested, you know, I was arrested and I spent 2 weeks in prison because of my driving. How do I know whether that's still on the record or not, if I'm going to get in trouble for that, right?
He really
go and check your...
that.
Yeah.
He definitely did.
And it could be anyone. Now, I haven't committed an offense since I got in trouble. Well, I do drive kind of crazy. But I didn't say that on camera.
and the other thing that he said is... I think typically there's a cost. I think he said $75.
That right now the state can absorb.
Yes. So you can not only get that background check done, but you can get it done at no cost to yourself.
Yes.
So if you don't have the money to pay for that,
that's right.
It can be done.
Yes.
Without you're having the money, they will do it.
You just got to get up off your 2 cents, your laurels, and you got to go and put in the work in order to better your life. And I kind of want to end with this and give you the last word on it, but I want to give just a short scenario. So mostly everyone knows that I'm the mother of an incarcerated son. My son made a really big boo-boo at age 20. By the time he was 21, he was then sentenced to 25 years of incarceration for liquor store robbery. Okay, my whole point of that is just this: my son is borderline genius, according to his intelligence. Right? The attention deficit disorder, that didn't help much because you don't always think things through and process them properly. But that only speaks to the people who went to prison and are now coming home, or they may still be in the prison. Just because you made a really stupid boo-boo doesn't make you stupid. They are talented. Some of them are talented. Yeah. They have wisdom. They have technology capabilities with a little training. Like, they're smart people. So when they come home, the returning citizens, after being justice impacted, we as Americans, especially Delawareans, we need to train them and get them back in, because a lot of them are really smart. Yeah. My son is a borderline genius. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you would think because he went to jail, oh, he's just whatever you think about people that go to jail.
Yeah. Well, he who was without sin cast the first stone. So we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to each other to not be judgmental, to give people second chances, and to help people enter back into our community in a way that's going to be positive for our community.
Yeah.
I mean, let's also face it. So some people think, well, that's all about sort of the social, emotional sort of things, but there's a good business reason to do those things as well. Because if you're not productive and producing and contributing, then you're consuming,
right,
and taking, and somebody else has got to produce for you to consume. So we want everybody as much as possible producing and being productive, because then they're contributing and they're carrying their own weight, and people want to do that.
You know what, Mrs. Velda, and I could be wrong about this, but I heard someone say it once and it stuck with me. Every, I guess, successful drug dealer is a mathematician. They're a mathematician, because you got to stand there and count this money, and that's coming in and this is going out. And I hate to keep referring to drug dealers, but I guess that's because of the stigma. But they're mathematicians.
You know,
they know numbers.
I'm trying to think where I was. Oh my goodness, I can't think where I was. I've been out and about so much.
Yes.
Late. But where I was, it was an organization that really focused on teaching, and it's at the young age, teaching them about physiology, about how their body works.
Yes.
Oh, I know where it was. Actually, it was at the Hicks Anderson Center.
Okay.
I stopped by there one morning, and the gentleman who runs their garden was sharing with me, you know, what they do, what he does in teaching them agriculture and gardening and healthy eating and healing herbs that they grow right there.
Yes.
And what I took away from that most was how much the difference that it would make if our children at the earliest possible age gains the understanding of their body and what they consume in their body does to their body.
Yes.
And the best place to start that is with what you eat.
Mama say what you put in is what's coming out.
Right. But really help them understand that.
Yes.
Because then I believe they are going to make the choice to stay away from things that are not going to be good for their body.
That's right.
As a way of life. And we know some cultures do a really good job of that already.
Yes.
I mean, the Muslim culture does that.
I love the Muslim culture.
And, you know, and others.
Yes.
So the extent to which we can bring that knowledge to our children at the earliest age will help them make better decisions about what to and what not to put into their bodies.
That's right.
And then those geniuses, those mathematicians will be, how do I say this? That industry won't be there as prevalent and as ready for and as ripe for them to then take what really are good business talents, strong math skills, strong interpersonal skills. But to use those skills in industries and in places and in ways that are really positive
for themselves and others.
And so I think the more we invest and pour into people and their knowledge of themselves and the more we promote wholesome living, morality, I mean all this stuff that may sound like pie in the sky, but I believe is the anchor of what our community needs. The more we do that, then we're empowering all of these people in our community to make better choices. And we're going to see the benefits of that over time, for sure.
There's so much that I want to keep talking about, but I want you to close us out. If there's something that I haven't mentioned, and there's like 15 things in my brain I wanted to still talk about, but, you know, close us out with a message that you think is important for the city of Wilmington to know about you.
Right. Okay. So, what do I think is important to know about me?
I think she's great.
So, you know, I am Wilmington. I mean, I'll just say that. I am a product of this city. I've lived here since all my life. So I was 2 years old when my family came here from West Virginia.
Yes.
And I've lived in so many different parts of the city. On the east side, Riverside Housing Project, East Lawn Avenue, kind of at the north end of the city. And now we raise our children in the north part of the city as well. So, you know, Kingswood, Jackson Street Boys Club.
Oh, I remember.
You know, those are places that I know growing up.
Yeah.
Wilmington Friends School, St. Edmund's Academy, Cool Springs Reservoir, all of those places as well. So
Yeah.
there's not a corner of this city that I haven't, that hasn't been a part of my life in some way.
Yes.
And so I care about what happens to people here. And I think that's what I really want people to know and take away, is that I really care about what happens. And I believe with every fiber in me that we can do better, that we can be more inclusive, that we can be more equitable, that we can listen. There are communities, even those that, you know, people look and see, well, they're doing great, you know, over near Rockford Park and so forth.
Yes.
But they want to be heard. There are things in their community with Gibraltar and other things where they also want to be sure that the leaders of this city are listening to them.
Yes.
And so it's not just any one or two community. It's not just the communities of color. It's everywhere across the city that people want their neighborhoods to just keep getting better and want to be heard and want to have a say in how their community goes and what happens there. And I just fundamentally believe that it really needs to be a bottom-up approach anyway. Even in my management roles in the corporate world, where it was very much hierarchical, and everybody strives to climb that ladder and make it to the top so they can then make the decisions and
everybody
control.
wants,
My philosophy was always different. I always saw that triangle more inverted. I always saw and believed and approached that even in my role as a manager, as an executive, that it's not my role to impose and dominate and control, but rather it's to facilitate and make sure that I'm creating an environment where everyone in that organization is able to thrive and do their best. And now, make no mistakes, the buck stops there with the leader, and I have always been very much the one who takes ownership and responsibility and makes the ultimate decision. But it's with input, and it's with collaboration, and it's with understanding what other people's perspectives are, and especially those people who are in and of that community. If it's an organization, if it's a neighborhood, it's important that they feel that they have and do in fact have a part in it.
Well, you know, I don't mean to sound harsh or inconsiderate of any particular neighborhood or community. In no way do I mean to do that. But when I look at places like, just say, Rockwood Woods and Rockford Park, and, you know, these $600,000 homes, where it seems like their biggest concern is people who didn't put their pet on the leash. You know, we want to make a pet leash law. But when I come into the city, I think and I feel the young people my black, brown, and golden young people are experiencing a level of violence that is unprecedented. And to me, that takes precedence over how high I should cut the grass in other particular communities.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is no question that we have to prioritize the challenges that we face as a city. No question about that. And the crime in our city is absolutely, frankly, the number one issue that we have to address, because even those communities that aren't experiencing it right now in their neighborhood are affected by it.
Yes.
The reputation of the city, they're affected by that. We all want the city to have not only a reputation, but a reality.
And some of their children go to school with some of our children.
Yes. And so, I mean, everybody has a vested interest in how the city goes. And those places where the challenges are greatest, we have to be willing to give that proportionate attention and some level of priority.
Yes.
While we also are attending to all the other issues,
yes, ma'am,
and not to diminish what in other communities are being experienced, but of course we have to prioritize what we do and how we allocate the resources, and it's getting that input that's going to help us be able to do that.
I can't thank you enough, Mrs. Velda, for sitting down and engaging me in just a heart-to-heart conversation.
Yeah, great.
I just wanted the people to get to know you outside of the radio and outside of all of the business meeting, but just two women sitting here having a conversation. I wanted the people to have an opportunity to get to know you the way that I'm getting an opportunity to know you. So I hope that we've answered some of your questions today. I do pray that you will share this particular video. Listen to it more than once. We talked about a lot of different conversations and topics. So to get the right perspective and not take the words out of context, because we know some people will do that, and you know who you are, you take words out of context. Listen to it more than once. Sit around the dinner table and play this video and have a conversation, a family conversation about it, and chime in on the areas that are most important to you. So we did this because we like being in each other's company.
Yes.
All right, as sisters, that's just something we enjoy. But on a political and a professional level, I wanted to introduce you to Mrs. Velda Jones-Potter as just Sister Velda. All right, and your next mayor for the city of Wilmington. So again, I thank you a million times for doing this, and I guess I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace and grace. Enjoy your day.